Welcome to Beer and Iron's Cast Iron Sesame Meatballs and a honey, sweet, and tangy beer sauce. I'm going to tell you what, this recipe is easy. But don't make the mistake that easy is trading in for delicious. It's that too. We're going to make these meatballs a bit sweet and a bit tangy. First thing we're going to do is make the meatballs, and then we're going to set them in the oven to bake. Then we're going to create our heavenly sauce and have it ready for the stovetop to thicken up just as these meatballs come to temperature. Let's start with the ingredients. First, let's start with the meatball ingredients. You need 2 pounds of ground beef, 2 eggs, a half a cup of Panko breadcrumbs, 3 tablespoons of good old ketchup, a half teaspoon of garlic powder or other, and we'll talk about that in a bit, a teaspoon of onion powder, a half teaspoon of salt, more or less to your taste. You can substitute that half teaspoon of salt for a full teaspoon of Lowry's seasoned salt. I like Lowry's. Now for the sauce ingredients. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 to 4 tablespoons of honey, depending on how sweet you like your sauce. My wife likes it good and sweet, and I usually add 4 tablespoons. A half to a full teaspoon of ground ginger. 2 to 3 tablespoons of beer. Well, what kind? My answer is whatever. The beer will influence the flavor and make it taste different each time. A sweet porter to a bitter IPA. The beer fridge is the limit. Then we're going to add 1 to 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, and that depends on how thick you like your sauce. To garnish, we're going to use some toasted sesame seeds. You could use some green onions or some chopped parsley as well. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Set up your baking pan. You can use parchment paper or not, it's up to you. I don't usually use parchment paper when I cook, but this is more for the drippings than the stickins. A little trick about that parchment paper. Parchment paper don't like to cooperate, no it don't. Teach that parchment paper a lesson. Crumble it up good before you lay it out on that pan. Show that parchment paper who's boss. Dump and mix all the meatball ingredients together. Get everything mixed in really well. There's a product I really like called Johnny's Garlic Spread and Seasoning. No, I'm not getting paid by Johnny, not at all. But this is good stuff, I tell you what. If you use Johnny's in your recipe, leave out the garlic powder. Start with a tablespoon or 2 to get a taste for it. This stuff is perfect in so many other recipes. If you're enjoying this video up to this point, be sure to give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and definitely don't forget to hit that dinner bell. Create the meatballs and set them in the cast iron one by one and evenly spaced. The meatball size is really up to you. A good starting point is about 1.5 inches. 1 or even 2-inch meatballs are okay too. But try to keep the meatball size somewhat consistent per batch. We want them all to cook evenly and at the same time. Place that cast iron pan or skillet full of them meatballs in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius and set them to bake. We'll bake these for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the meatballs are browned and cooked through to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 72 degrees Celsius. While the meatballs are baking, go ahead and mix up the ingredients for the sauce, except for the cornstarch. If you've already tossed it in, no worries. Pour all the sauce ingredients into a small skillet. Don't use a bigger one. A big skillet will cause the sauce to thin out too much and it'll dry out and burn. We'll be using honey, and you know what troubles sugar gives our cast iron when it burns. Then at the end, before we get ready to put it on the heat, add the cornstarch and mix it in well. No lumps. Use a whisk or a fork to mix the ingredients thoroughly. Just smash those little cornstarch bubbles right into that sauce mixture. When the meatballs are getting close to being done, set that small cast iron skillet with those sauce ingredients on low to medium-low heat and heat it up until the sauce thickens up. Once the meatballs are done, remove them one by one and place them in a large bowl big enough to hold all the meatballs and to stir them into that sauce. I suggest getting a bowl with room to spare. Room to spare is nice so you don't roll them meatballs right out of that bowl when you're stirring them around. Pour the sauce over the meatballs. Stir and coat them meatballs all up in that sauce. And sprinkle over some toasted sesame seeds. To garnish, more than just the sesame seeds, you can sprinkle a little bit of chopped parsley or green onions over those meatballs and then serve. What's a good side for this meatball recipe? Rice and potatoes is always a winner. Today, we're going to be adding stir-fried broccoli to our meal. That's it. It's really that simple. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that little thumbs up. Tag that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that little dinner bell. I hope you enjoy this sweet and tangy meatball recipe. My name is Soulé, and I love to share the magic that comes out of my black pots and pans. You all keep on cooking in those cast iron beauties and enjoying those frosted glasses of that fermented barley pop. We'll see you next time on beerandiron.com.